Hello and welcome to season 9 of the VML. This is week 6. I'm Filipa. I'm joined by Kuro, and we are heading off on this week with a lot of exciting matches, starting with a live one. And what a week this is because we have only 2 more weeks until playoffs, and players want to make sure they are on the top 2 of their divisions to make it into the playoffs. Kuro, how are you doing today? Excited for these matches?
Absolutely. I think we have a really good slew of matches set up for this tonight, and I'm very excited for it.
We cannot go further without thank our amazing sponsors, Wizards of the Coast and Good Luck i5. Thank you so much. Without them, we could not do this tournament. So big shout out and thank you for sponsoring the VML. I'm really excited for the matches we have today. I like how creative our players are. We always try to showcase different decks. But one thing that we did this week was try to bring these players that are doing well in the division. So this might be kind of into playoffs or not kind of situation. A lot of the players are, for example, first and third on the division. So they are really fighting for that spot. And I think that's one of the cases that we are going to see in our first match here. If we could go into the player slide. First the meta breakdown, of course. And Kuro, what do you think of this meta breakdown? Grixis Midrange, the most played deck. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I mean, you have the standard. I mean, I feel like we've kind of gotten used to seeing this type of breakdown at this point. We see some Grixis mid range, we see some mono white, we see some Esper, and I think the really interesting part is we still have a large amount of creativity with everybody playing in this league. About half the decks, as we can see here, starting with Azorius soldiers going clockwise, we see a large variety. Even Azorius control even has a wedge dedicated to it, which is nice. I love that. We're seeing we have even Reanimator deck on that list. There's just a lot of different stuff here. I think it's really cool that despite the fact that there's such dominant strategies that a lot of people are taking, there's still a good amount of variety that everybody is handling with.
For sure. And I see Esper Legends being the third most played deck. And actually, that deck performed really well in the regional championship, the European one last week. Uh,
Hmm.
it was Toralf that got the second place. Him and his team did this Esper Legend with 4 wedding announcement main. And that one got pretty popular because they performed amazing in that tournament. But I love how you say about the diversity here. We see a lot of fringe decks, a lot of reanimator decks. I think a lot of people experimenting with different kind of reanimator decks, so that's really fun. Any deck here that surprises you that's being highly played by our players?
Honestly, not particularly. Though it is nice to see Selesnya toxic because I've said this before on stream, but there is a severe lack of green in this pie chart here. You see Jund mid range, you see the green in Selesnya toxic, and that's kind of all you get. So it's nice to see a little of a bit of a resurgence, even if it is a very, very specific archetype.
Yes, and I'm definitely surprised to not even see it more because actually this green white toxic won the Japanese regionals, I think 2 weeks ago. So definitely a deck that to look for. It's a deck that's performing super well in the meta. I think maybe the fact that some players don't really have the wild cards to build it because it does require a lot of new wild cards because most of the rares are from the new set. So maybe people are not still experimenting a lot with it, but definitely a deck to look out. And I think we even have one of the green white toxic to see today. So that's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah.
And if we can go here to our player slide, there we go. So our first feature match is going to be Jen, and Jen decided to bring mono white mid range. What do you think of this version of the mono white?
Well, it's your standard mono white list. It has Wanderers in it. It has Iganjo. It has Bankbuster, of course, one of the best 2 drops in the format. And it has Wedding Announcement. I think the thing I really like the most in this sideboard is the 4 of, or was it, the 2 of Skrell's Hive. I think that's a very interesting choice. And while I don't know if this will be good in this matchup, I think it's definitely something to look out for. Obviously, the big ones to pay attention to are the big planeswalker threats and all the massive amounts of card advantage you can get. But it's a
Yeah.
pretty standard list. I like it.
What do you think of not bringing the steel one here, the steel card?
Oh, Steel
Because
Seraph?
yeah,
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I think part of it is definitely because of the presence of a braid in the format, which can make Steel Seraph so very much worse. And you do have Bankbuster as a target for a braid, but the Seraph paying 6 for a 5/5 when it gets killed by a 2 mana common removal spell, that just feels bad. And so you have to find ways around it. At least if your Bankbuster dies to it, you know that you're at mana parity.
And Kuro, that's why you're being the expert role, because that was a great answer right here. Very good point. And what is Jen going to play against? By the way, Jen 4-1, and we talked about these players that are neck and neck in the competition to make it into playoffs. So we have Eleanor here at 3-2. So as we can see, if Eleanor manages to win, both of the players will be 4-2. So then again, neck to neck for these playoffs and making the last week really exciting. So Eleanor decided to bring this Selesnya Toxic, and I'm so excited for this choice. Shout out here to Eleanor for bringing this fun deck. I'm so excited to casting it. What do you think, Kuro, of this green white Toxic?
Oh my gosh. So, first of all, it gives me flashbacks to the infect decks that you would see way back in the day during New Phyrexia. But I think the thing most interesting about this is the use of these early toxic creatures and just pushing them in as threats. Bloated Contaminator is an extremely efficient piece, and it's very scary because it basically has toxic too, right? You deal a counter and then you proliferate once. I think the most interesting thing about this deck, though, is the use of cards like Carnivorous Canopy and Tivar's Stand and Charge of the Mites, which you would think are nothing more than draft chaff, but actually play a very key role in this deck because there's so many problematic artifacts and enchantments that you have to deal with.
Yeah, to be honest, this Selesnya Toxic deck, the first time I saw it, it looked like a very good draft Phyrexia deck because most of the cards are indeed Phyrexia. So it's really excited because it's actually a super strong deck. And I'm not sure if Eleanor chose this deck because of Skrelv, but based on these answers on the profile, she does say that Skrelv Ive is the favorite art from the one, and also the most important card she says is Krelv, eating the
Hmm.
battlefield early on, key to victory. So let's see if that is the case. This is a live match, so I'm not sure if our players are ready to start here, but really soon we should be able to start the game. Um, really excited here for the aggro choice as well. In a Grixis mid-range meta, it's nice to see Mono Red, Selesnya Toxic, all these aggro decks, because even Mono White is not quite an aggro deck. It's more like mid-rangey, I would say. Uh, and here we have the opening. What do you think of this opening, Kuro?
Not having lay down arms in your opener as mono white against an aggro deck is such a big issue. But Destroy Evil works very well against both Skrell's Hive and Wedding Announcement. So it may end up working out. And the mono white deck does play board wipes, which is obviously a huge weakness for the infect deck.
Oh, and
Skrell.
here we have the Skrelv turn one. Eleanor said it's the key to success, so let's see if that's true. And what do you think of these two Field of Ruins in a deck that wants a lot of planes because of the lay down arms?
I think it's fine. I mean, you have problematic lands such as the Seed Core, and you have Murex, which obviously needs to be dealt with because it gets around board wipes extremely easily. It is very awkward, but the curve for green white infect slash toxic is ones, twos, and threes. So as long as you get 1 to 3 planes down, it doesn't matter how many Field of Ruins you draw.
And here we have a very good start for our Toxic player, as there's already a Jawbone Duelist, which is a 1-1 double strike, so that Toxic counter is going to happen twice. Uh, Here the 20 is not the life we are looking at. The 10 toxic might be what finishes it.
Ooh, there's the Rot Priest.
Rod Priest is really good, and we have Skrelv to protect our creatures. We see here Eleanor not attacking with Skrelv, being able to keep it up to protect one of the creatures.
Yeah, there's the Mother of Runes, right? If anyone's ever played Mother of Runes way back in the day, you know just how powerful it is to be able to randomly give hexproof to something. And it gets around blockers too. This is a mono white deck, which means that Wandering Emperor making tokens does not matter because Skrelv can just push it through. Just name white.
And even if Skrelv dies, we know there's a second one on end. And we have also a crawling Shoros entering the battlefield, Field of Ruin used here by Jen. She decided to um, get rid of the land, and 4 mana now gives you access to Wandering Emperor, but is that enough?
Yeah, I am really curious. I very much like to know the reasoning behind not playing Wedding Announcement last turn. I do think that was probably a lot more valuable than destroying the Siege Core, especially since the Corrupted hadn't triggered yet. But maybe the plan was to destroy Evil as Skrelv's Hive. So perhaps that's the reasoning behind that decision.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
here Destroy Evil not looking as good. Um, the only target could be the Bloated Contaminator or Annex. And none of the cards are in play, so that Destroyed Evil definitely not looking that great right now.
Yeah, I mean it can hit those enchantments too. Are those in the those are in the main deck or those are in the sideboard?
We
There's
do
Wandering
not
Emperor.
have enchantments in the main that I can see. There is
Right.
four wedding announcements, right? So you do have the wedding announcements, and you do have the four Skrelv's Ive. So there are two valid targets um,
Yeah, that's
for
fair.
that
So
Destroy
this
Evil.
so this Wandering Emperor is so interesting because it sees the power of Charge of the Mites. Because now Eleanor can either make the decision to just make something get through, or just kill the token and push in for 4 damage and leave Skrelv to potentially protect. Protect.
Not only 4 damage, but a bunch of toxic damage, as Jen is now at 6, and that's scary.
Very much so. I don't see an easy way out of this. You can announce it to make a blocker, then the Emperor makes another blocker, but then Skrelv is going to push in that double striker, and there just isn't removal for that right now. That's just a huge problem that Jen is just not going to be able to deal with, I think.
Yeah, Jen needs a farewell, but also the 6th land to be able to cast it, which is not an
Yeah,
easy combination to get in a couple of turns.
absolutely. Here's a Bank Buster. Unfortunately, too little, too late, I think. Oh, that double Rod Priest, though. Oh my god.
Yeah,
What a draw on Eleanor's side. So now a single piece of removal is still lethal. So, jeez.
things not looking that great here for Jen.
Let's see. But she can still get out of it, I think. Depends on what Eleanor does here.
So
Everything comes in. Oh, yeah, because Eleanor does have the second Skrelv in the hand. Ooh.
so maybe that 2/2 needs to block the Jawbone, because you cannot really afford to take two toxic from there. 1/1
Yeah.
Skrelv, but we know there's another one. So here Jen is going to lose both the creatures, and Eleanor is going to be able to pass through two toxic damage, bringing total to 8. Play a Skrelv, and I would even consider in just playing land and being able to use the Myrex. But here another Rot Priest, because why not, right?
This is the moment. Ooh, this is really interesting. This
That
game is about to swing, I
that
think.
Eternal Wanderer can do some work.
So the choice has to be the crawling chorus. It has to be. Because if anything else gets chosen, the chorus dies and that's 2 tokens.
But you can make a 2/2, right, with your Wandering Emperor to be able to block.
That's true, but you can't risk the idea of potentially drawing anything, right? Like if you leave the Rock Priest alive, a targeting spell can still give you poison. If you leave Skrelv alive, then you can just push in twice. And there's the Scrubs Hive, and that Destroy Evil is looking so good right now.
I would say Jen now has the upper hand, which we were thinking about
Mm-hmm.
a way to come back, and things are looking really good right now. And that's the thing about playing aggro decks. They are really good in the beginning, but you really need to close that game early on. Otherwise, Field of Ruin taking care of one of the Marex.
No more basics. Oh my god.
Oh, and Jen taking advantage of that right away.
Yeah, wow, that swung so hard. If Eleanor had kept those creatures in the hand instead of playing them all out, I think this would have gone very differently.
That's a cheap Stone Rain.
Stone Rain with upside.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think Jen actually has game one. I don't see how Eleanor is going to get out of this. It has to be Skrelv, right?
but even
Ooh,
oh,
okay.
I don't think this is enough though because the land situation was.
Oh yeah, this Tivar stand is like 2 turns too late. It really needed to be around when the rock priests were in play.
You know
Oh, and
what
there's
would
another.
bring you back if you have another one of this, and then you would have kept your Rot Priest instead of playing it, because now you can target your Rot Priest and get those two last damages. That would
Oh,
be an
that's
out.
that's so hard though, because how do you evaluate that, right? How do you you can't
And
know, right?
and here Eleanor
Ooh,
just reduced to one land. Jen saw there's no basics, and she did take advantage of that.
what a game! Wow. Okay, so I am heavily reevaluating those Field of Ruins and Demolition Fields. What a fantastic choice! It's clearly benefiting benefiting her. My goodness!
And if you think about it,
Wow.
the most popular deck is Grixis Midrange. You also have Esper Legends, and those decks usually don't run a lot of
Yeah.
basics. So another way to punish it, we already have Furnace in mono red that punishes the fact that the players have a lot of non-basics and almost no basics. And this is a even better way, just free Stone Rains. Why not?
Yeah, so this sideboard, to me, it's very clear what to side in here. The depopulates, obviously. You have to wipe the board. Sunset Revelry is actually a pretty nice one because it makes blockers and that saves you 2 poison, which can make or break the game. And you don't care about your life total. So as long as you're drawing cards from it, that's good. Um, yeah, Iganjo's not so good. Cathar Commando, I don't know if I agree about that. And Farewell, taking out Farewell, that's a very interesting decision because Farewell basically destroys the toxic deck. It gets around Tivar's stand. That's so important. This is an
Yeah,
interesting sideboarding position here. I think Jen is thinking I have to try to have some pressure. I wonder how if it's going to pay off or not.
definitely, and especially with the green-white toxic now being on the play.
Yeah,
Jen needs to find early answers, and maybe having two farewells, 6 mana, the curve is not going to work out.
yeah, for sure. Oh man, please.
What deck would you bring this week, Kuro?
What deck did I bring?
Yeah.
I brought Blue White Control, of course, like every other week.
Does it do well against this toxic deck?
Actually, yes, but only because of temporary lockdown. Oh, this hand! Oh my god, that
I
is
mean, you do have the
rough.
demolition fields.
This is certainly better. You have 2 drops out the wazoo. Um,
Cutting a
I like this more.
Bankbuster. Yeah.
I
And
believe Grelv is an artifact. Yes.
it is. And that Qatar Commando looking really nice.
hmm And another thing that's worth noting is the fact that ossification is an ability and does not trigger Venerated Rock Priest.
Oh, that's true.
hmm So
Oh,
now this
and
Aspi. Oh, Lauren.
Lauren can take care of Skrelv as well.
I think Eleanor not attacking here was absolutely clutch because now Jen can't just ossify that duelist. Trading that poison counter for the security of keeping the duelist, I think, is a fantastic decision. Jen just giving us a little circus circles.
Should I? Should I not?
I've been there. In a field, okay.
Yeah, drawing a stone rain.
I do like Stone Rain in the land, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Not yet. Let me see how many basics this green white has.
Looks
Okay,
like one, right?
it has one plane. Yeah, one.
Oh, snap blocks this. I do not care about this dog. Does not matter. It's there to eat two poison counters, and that's its job. I respect that.
And here Lauren taking care of that Skrelv.
Yes. Growth cannot protect itself, which is probably for the best.
It's already good as it is, right?
Yeah, it
But
could
look at
be
this.
absolutely. Yeah,
Two
more
Myers
tokens.
being created, and here Jen can attack for a bunch of toxic.
This is very aggressive, but Eleanor does not have that much left in her hand, which could be very problematic going forward. Because there's no Tivar stand, there's no Skrell's hives. This could be problematic. Because Jen has an opportunity to stabilize here, although she may not know it yet.
Yes, and it even is looking better for Jen as it did last game in the early turns, because now we have ossification getting rid of one of that jawbone, and still we have either Bankbuster or we have the Commando.
Yeah, I think if I was Jen, I would be just making sure to stem the bleeding as much as possible. Oh, wait, it's a Reckoner.
Yeah, so
Never mind.
here we know
Interesting.
that Eleanor will be able to. Oh, and that's a great card.
What a draw.
That's exactly what you need. And there's no destroy evil on Jen's side.
That's true. But things can always shift if Jen were to draw that one of Emperor or that one of Farewell that's still in the deck.
Yeah, one good thing about this commando is that if I'm not incorrect, this is a 3-1, which means that it can be flashed to then crew the Bankbuster, block the Contaminator, and
Yes.
Eleanor might not be expecting it, disrupting a bit the plan, and that the 1-1 token can block something as well. So, of course, though, Eleanor drawing a charge.
That is a fantastic draw for Eleanor.
Yes.
Absolutely phenomenal draw.
But it can only deal 3 damage if I'm not incorrect.
You're not wrong at all. But that
The
3 damage
trample.
hitting. Yes, exactly. And that token could block a 1-1, but those seed cores let them survive that attack. Oof. That was such a good draw on Eleanor.
So
That's
here we are
all
going.
skill. Sorry, my bad.
Oh no, I'm just excited to see what happens here. Is Eleanor pulling the trigger on that charge or not?
Oh, she doesn't.
And that actually
So she,
makes sense because you can just instant speed play 2-1-1s, which is also Jen already at 6 poison.
yeah, actually, that does make sense because the double C cores make it so that it gets through the 1-1s. Yeah, okay, I like that. You're right. That
But
makes a
you
lot
know
of
what's
sense.
really good to block 1-1s? Wedding announcement,
Yes,
followed by
and do you
another
know?
wedding announcement.
And you know what's good against those seed cores? Stone Rain! Yay!
And yeah, now Eleanor got the only basic land on the deck, so everything from now on is a stone rain on these land abilities from Jen's side.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is double tokens. Okay. Keep in mind too, Commando can, in a pinch, block a token and sacrifice and kill another token. Oh, it's wedding announcement. Oof. That can get easily destroyed by Cathar Commando.
If
Oh my
Qatar
goodness.
Commando doesn't block here,
Oh, it does.
because here Jen trying to absorb as much as she can. Um, we cannot
Yeah.
forget that Jen already at 6 poison counters, which is when it starts getting scary, especially when your opponent is running so much of those um, rot priests.
Yeah. I think Jen is making these very calculated decisions to use these spells that are abilities to kill things. I think that's such a fantastic
Oh,
idea.
and we are 1 mana short of being able to cast that charge, but that's definitely a great card. Oh, but now
For
we
sure.
can, because now, oh
Mm,
no, because
right?
there's no land.
Yeah, that's right.
Ah, stone rain. I was like, yeah, but this is great for Eleanor. Oops, no, it's just a stone rain.
Yeah, I'm so used to playing my own decks, which usually have about 7 to 10 basic lands, that I forget that other decks sometimes are just like, nah, I'll just play one planes.
Oh,
What's
but
the worst that can happen?
that's a great card right there.
Yeah, Tivar stand.
Yeah.
Oh, this is interesting because Eleanor's thinking, do I attack with both of these to draw an extra card with wedding announcement? Because if so, what are you trying to draw with wedding announcement? Right? And I would suggest that you're trying to draw Skrelv, you're trying to draw Skrelv's Hive, you're trying to draw Murix, or you're trying to draw a bloated contaminator. Something
There's
like that.
Fateful Absence on Jen's side, so if Eleanor does pull the trigger here on the spell,
Ooh.
Jen can answer with that Fateful Absence.
So the question is this actually worth it, right? It
Yeah.
probably isn't, yeah. Because you need to kill Skrelv, you need to kill Bloodhook. Like, those are so much more threatening than a single copy of Crawling Chorus. Oh, that's a
Drawing a land
land.
here,
That's
not ideal. Oh, an A Ganjo.
another ability that does not trigger Venerated Rot Priest. That is so good.
And here Jen, like, should I attack? Jen is going to make another 2/2 here. It's going to be a 3/3.
Ooh, here we go.
I'm not too surprised by this with Fateful Absence being able to also create another creature. But of course, here the two might. Oh, what a card here!
Slaughter Singer. If only that wedding announcement was already flipped, then those 1/1s would be 3/3s attacking. Oh man. This is tricky because Eleanor could theoretically try to fake a combat trick by stopping the timer, but if Jen sees through it, and Jen has 2 instant speed answers, which is such a major hurdle for Eleanor.
So we have the
Oh man.
Singer here attacking with everything. So here Jen will be able to block one of these creatures and still have two answers with a Ganjo and Fateful Absence. And using a Ganjo on the other 2/2,
There's that.
one toxic
Just
damage passing.
plays the land.
I
Oh, there's
wonder if
another
Jen
land.
here pulls the trigger on the Fateful Absence on the Singer. Oh, that card though. Wandering Emperor can enter the battlefield, immediately exile the Koros, doesn't let it have the die ability because it's an exile effect,
Yeah.
and can even Fateful Absence the Singer.
Alternatively, you don't even need to exile the chorus because it's not even killing. It can't really do very much against those tokens. You could just flash an emperor and make a token, and you have a
Yeah.
body, and there's a fateful absence. So
Yeah, and here Eleanor can, in the end of the turn, just throw that card from the clue.
double
Oh,
checking that.
The
Yeah.
aggression on Jen's side, I'm loving it.
Be aggressive. Be aggressive. There's a slaughter singer and a crawling. The creatures never end for Eleanor. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Is this the song that you sing, Kuro, when you're playing Blue-Eyed Control and your opponent and you have a Wandering Emperor ready to to exile something that attacks and you're like, be aggressive.
I mean, it's never a song I sing for myself, that's for sure. But yeah, Jen is playing this extremely tight, and Eleanor is too. I think it's just that's the thing about playing against toxic, is that it's such a thin margin because if something goes wrong like once or twice, they can like steamroll you, right? So that choice to play those Field of Ruins and Demolition Fields really mattered in this matchup. The use of removal spells on Jen's end was really mattered in this matchup. The use of Wedding Announcement really mattered in this matchup. Conversely, Eleanor's use of Charge of the Mites really mattered in this matchup. The using Skrell, whether you attack with it or not on turn one, really matters. There's so many little things.
And I
And
think
there's
we've
another.
seen over and over again how this mono white deck is so resilient because so many times you're like, no, there's no way there's a comeback. And other decks would not have comebacks, but mono white has so many different answers for so many things. Open that it is.
Dang! Sheesh! Oh my god!
Oh, the answer. That's why I
Ugh.
love Magic the Gathering.
Oh wow!
That destroy evil, the perfect answer to the it's the top deck to the top deck.
That was an amazing draw. Wow. And I mean, it's very flavorful too, right? Because Destroy Evil is all about killing Phyrexians.
For sure. And that Wandering Emperor minus ability, it's not creating a 2/2, it's creating a 4/4 now because of these two wedding announcements on the board. And here Jen really deciding ending ends up deciding that a 4/4 is indeed really good.
Turns out having a 4/4 is better than not having a 4/4.
Yeah, and here I think Jen might be afraid of the X-proof indestructible spell. Um,
Maybe, yeah. I mean, no, with the arena timer working the way it does, knowing that Eleanor doesn't have any instance, I think it's just, yeah,
yeah, and
insta
here
resolve.
not afraid of tire stand, just just going for it. And suddenly Eleanor at 4.
There's a Mirix.
Yeah, but is it
Unfortunately,
a
it would have
bit
been,
too late because it cannot block?
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
that's just the nail in the coffin.
I can hear hammer sounds going. Choo, 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 choo.
Yep.
Yeah, that is it.
And I feel that
There's-
music in my head like two. Oh well, what a game of
wow.
magic we had here. Great games by both of our players. Mono White taking the win, and Jen, what amazing games by both of our players. What did you thought, Kuro?
It's just watching how resilient mono white is and how scary green white toxic is and putting them against each other and really seeing, especially in that first game where that wanderer really just saved Eleanor, or rather it saved Jen by a paper thin margin, right? If that was not in that hand at that exact time, if that was not a land that was drawn, that was a loss.
For
But
sure.
that was able to get it back. Wow.
And I
Oh.
was trying to get our player standings here. I was trying to look at it, and I think Jen was 4-1, and Eleanor was 3-2. If I'm not confusing the two, so that
Mhm.
means that Jen now at 5-1 at an amazing uh, way to almost guarantee to have to make it into playoffs, and Eleanor kind of losing the chance here unless she's able to win next week, and then maybe. But as we said here, week 6 really decisive for these players that are in between making into playoffs and or not. These last 2 weeks are extremely important. But great games on both players, and we have a lot more magic to see today. And can we take a look at our player sliders here for our next matches? So this match was live, and now all the other matches are recorded. So maybe we have the players here on chat, because we see this a lot when the match is not live. We see a lot of the time the players coming into chat, and we have Aspi at 4-1. Making a really good score in our division. I actually played against Aspi in my last VML, so in season 8, and Aspi decided to bring Grixis Midrange, which surprise surprise is the most played deck on the of the week and from the past weeks. Why do you think so many players choose this Grixis deck? Because the win rate percentage we saw on tournaments, it's nothing crazy, just really consistent, right?
Yeah, I think that consistency is what makes it work so well. Half the deck draws you cards, right? Like Appraiser draws you cards, Harvester cycles you lands to draw you more cards, Fable draws you more cards, Bankbuster draws you more cards, Siphon Insight. It's just it's really hard to have a hand where you're not able to dig through the rest of your deck. I like that consistency.
Yeah, Grix is definitely a great deck. It won the European regional finals last weekend, and just an overall consistent deck. It hasn't changed that much from the last months since season 8, and it's no surprise that this deck is playing so much. I think it's one thing about this version is that it doesn't play Invoke Despairs.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing that sort of meta of do you play Invoke Despair or not? Because on the one hand, it feels like such an obvious play. But on the other hand, there are two major problems. Number one, people kind of prepare for it. If you're playing mono white, you can just sack a token, sack one of your wanderers, and maybe a wedding announcement that's already flipped. That's not that great. The best part about Invoke Despair is that it's a lava axe and draw 3 cards. In my opinion, anyway. Obviously, sometimes the sack is great. But at the other side, it's the mana requirement, right? Quad black is a big deal. And when people are playing Field of Ruins to try to mess up your mana base and you only have 2 main deck swamps, trying to cast it when you draw Shivan Reef, that's rough. It's hard to work with.
I'm intrigued by this list because not only we don't have the Invoke Despairs, we also don't have Shieldred main. We are playing 3 Shieldred
Mm.
sideboard, but no Shieldred main. And that's definitely an approach here that is not that common, as those are considered to be strong cards. But I like how Aspi here decided to be like, you know what? The deck is good because I have Harvester with Fable of the Mirror Breaker and Corpse Appraiser. If I can get these 3 pieces, the rest I just need to interact. Removal, counter, that's what I need, right? Card draw.
Absolutely. Can I just ask real quick? Am I seeing this correctly? Is that 3 copies of Blue Sun's Twilight in the main deck?
You are indeed seeing it correctly. That's 3 copies of Blue
Oh
Sun's Twilight
my
here.
god. That's so cool. I want to see that. Oh my gosh. All right.
So Aspi ready to steal a lot of opponents' things here, and I'm leaving for it. And what is Aspi going to play against? Let's take here a look at our players. Oh, and this is actually Skybilz. So Sky here, another caster. She is part of the team, and we are not going to be biased here, but yeah, Sky being a part of our casting team, and she decided to bring Esper Legends. So actually, I'm not sure, but I think this is the list that we saw on the regional championship last week that I talked about, and it is because it has 4 wedding announcements. So I actually talked with Toralf that got second place in these regional championships alongside with their testing team, and I asked them like, why did you bring this list? And they said it's really good against Grixis. The thing is that Asp is not playing our regular Grixis, so I'm not sure how it performs against this version that Asp is playing, but definitely a great choice. And I see here that Sky said on the answer that I choose the list for this week after I saw Esper Legends performing well as of late. So I guess Sky was like, okay, let me see what's doing well. This Esper list was doing well in the regional championship, so let me take a look of it. What do you think, Kuro?
It definitely is very Orsov heavy, of course, and it splashes blue. I'm not seeing very many counter spells, which might be prove to be very interesting because it means that Aspi has the flexibility to potentially play more reactively than Sky will. Sky is definitely pushing the advantage here and is trying to go forward. Um,
Yeah, but I
I
can
don't
say that
see any
Aspi is a
counter spells.
very experienced Grixis player, as I've
Hmm.
played against Aspi, as I said in season 8, and she's just a great player. So I'm excited to see this match. Let's see if we can put here the footage of the match and see who has the upper hand. So here we are seeing things on Aspi's side and already cut down, make disappear, blood tide harvester, bang buster. And I have to say, cut down is surprisingly good against Esper because it does take care of Rafine if you don't connive before.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 2 mana answer to Raffine, basically, which is nice. This hand is awkward because what you're doing is you're starting with 2 tap lands, and that means you can't make disappear whatever the turn 3 play is, and that can really matter. Um, so we'll have to see how important that will be. And the draw is not a land. Let's see what happens.
And here Sky really wants that Talia turn too. That it is. Oh, so Aspi definitely needs to take care of that Talia because otherwise everything in end except that Blood Tide Harvester is going to have attacks on it. And the thing about this Esper Legend deck is that all the interaction is with channel lands, and channel lands actually are not a spell, are an ability, so they don't cost more because of Talia, right?
That is absolutely correct, and that is 3 non-land cards drawn in a row. That is unfortunate. Wow. There is a double cut down though, so that is potentially very useful. But it's very possible that Sky is going to just drop that Shieldra next turn, knowing that it won't get countered by Make Disappear.
Yeah, and here a very difficult choice for Aspi because if Aspi doesn't take action right now, she's going to have to discard a card in the end of the
Yeah.
turn.
You don't want to do that as a card advantage deck. If you're discarding a card and not doing anything, you're sacrificing cards for versatility. But there isn't that much versatility happening here on Aspi's field because there's no way to hold up a counter magic.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
Harvester
here
can be the play though. Yeah. I actually like
Alvarez is
this.
good. It can block Danik. Talia can attack for free though because it has first strike. So if there's a
Mhm.
Rafine here, actually then Sky is able to attack with both the Nick and Talia, putting the counter on the Nick. Um, but definitely Aspi needs to draw that third land, and now the Harvester is really smart because now if Aspi does not get that land, the blood token will help. But
Absolutely. Like it draws to your deck. So this Denik is pro. Oh, it's not. So it's 4 damage to the face.
yeah, maybe Aspi being afraid of a Ganjo.
Maybe. I
Oh,
don't
and
know
that
if
it
that's
is
worth.
the
Oh,
only card that this Esper Legend as main that will be taxed by Talia is Wedding Announcement. So Wedding Announcement here costing 4. But now that Harvester can take care of Talia, and then your removal will be much cheaper. So you'll be able to use the blood token and still have cut down up. And if there's a land from that blood token, things can swiftly change here for Aspi. Oh,
oh my god. I have been here. Honestly, I've been there. The 2 lander in the beginning of the hand, and just not drawing a single land. That is so unfortunate. I really feel for this.
yeah, but things are not over yet, as we see here
Oh,
Sky not having Shieldred, just ending up getting the Nick back from the grave. And Asp does get a land now, so able to do things like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, cut down, and keep and make disappear up.
yeah, what's interesting is Aspie might be thinking about, do I try to Blue Sun's Twilight this Denic? Because it's flipped. It paid Sky paid 4 mana for it, but it's a 2 mana spell. So if Aspie draws one more land, she can just steal it Who cares about killing it, right? You get a free dude. This Fable might be coming out. I don't know. I kind of like Fable here. It might be extremely pertinent.
Yeah, Fable will allow you to take awkward spells like Spell Pierce next turn out of your hand to try to draw something more relevant.
Right. Those counter spells are not looking very good at all. Aspi is completely behind the tempo right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, we see Sky here with Wedding Announcement, which is a great card against Grixis, especially when we know that Asp is not playing Invoke Despairs.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
There is
here
the
a
Fable.
2-2.
Fable of the Maniki Biki of Kiki Jiki. Okay, Adeline is interesting. All
Adeline
right.
is very good. But also Sky in awkward position where she didn't draw um Raffine, Shieldred, key cards of the deck that make the deck so good. Especially that Raffine, right? The whole deck kind of revolves around it, and when you don't draw it, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah, this Adeline is interesting. I'm trying to evaluate it because on the one hand it makes tokens for free, but on the other hand, if Aspi takes Denic, then that's a lot of issues to deal with. And that Fable is probably sticking around, so Aspi is going to be able to draw those cards. And if Aspi can chain a Blue Sun's Twilight into a second Blue Sun's Twilight, that could be game, depending on what Sky has. Because I did not see any counter spells on Sky's main deck.
Oh, and another wedding announcement though.
That's pretty good. There's more
Drawing two
cards.
cards.
There is a land. It's a tap land, but it's a land.
And here what
Oh,
would you
that's so
what
rough.
would you discard?
Um, I think discarding the make disappears makes the most sense. You don't really need them right now. Just point blank. There's too much. Sky is just too much mana, and Aspi does not have enough creatures to sacrifice to it. In my opinion, what I would do is Takenuma because it enters untapped. Blue Sun's Twilight, steal the Denic, or well, you can't cut down actually because Denic is now a 4/3 because of that
And the
wedding
Danik
announcement.
enters tapped, that's the thing, even if you steal it, right? Because it
Yeah,
doesn't untap it.
yeah, it's not Invoke the Winds where it untaps the card you take. So the other play is to Darkslick Shores and try to Childress Edict, I guess.
But
Which
none of these options seem good necessarily. Okay, that's a
or
way.
make a treasure and then Twilight the Adeline. Okay, I see that. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why
Because
Aspi is doing so well.
and that's a 1/4, but it blocks the token, and it means that Sky isn't making dudes anymore. But it is still drawing cards with Wedding Announcement, Skrell. Oh my god. Oh, that's Skrell. We'll die to cut down, so
Oh,
it's
and an
probably not.
auto while we're returning the Adeline back to Sky's End. Oh, Sky.
Well, Aspi better draw her one of copy of Damnation now. That's a joke, because Damnation is not legal in this format. Oh, that's so rough. I think those early turns not drawing lands just absolutely killed Aspi's plan for how this game was going to go. Combined with the
Yeah.
Thalia preventing from even trying to hold up 2 mana.
Yeah, and
That
here
was.
Aspi is not playing white, but it looks like it's going to be a farewell. I'm sorry.
I
I do way too
was
many farewell jokes. Like, at this
I
point,
was
it's just cringe.
I, I was like, where are you going with that? I don't understand. Why is it so important that Aspi's not playing a white deck? That's
No, it was just a bad joke. What do you think
it
of
was.
this sideboard here?
Well, Flameless Bolt is a kind of a nice answer to Thalia and a great answer to Flitzdenic, but I don't know if I like it. Nightclubber is a card I would never expect to see, but I bet it's for the green white infect. I like Path of Peril actually a little bit because it does kill the Denic and it kills the Thalia and it kills the wedding announcement tokens with for 4 mana if Thalia is out. I don't know. This is a difficult sideboarding here because it's partially dependent on what Sky wants to side in. Because if Sky tries to side in more reactive things, then you may want to put in more proactive things like
Yeah.
Shieldred. But if Skyist wants to kind of be more aggressive, then Flamebuzz Bolt is better because it will deal with those threats a lot better. And you know, Aspi's on the play here. So turn one Flamebuzz Bolt pass. No, sorry. Turn one land, go, and then turn two land, Flamebuzz Bolt your Thalia is the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, and here it looks like Aspi has some damnation and home in the sideboard.
The damnation at home.
Yeah. And I,
One
I
of.
think
Okay.
I think now on the play things will look much brighter for Aspi. The thing is that we need to have
Three.
cut
Okay.
downs to be able to deal with Talia early on because that Talia is annoying.
You know that Nightclubber gets around Thalia because it's a creature. Oh wow. That's such an interesting interaction. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about it like, man, I would be good against Infect. But no, there's extra stuff. Okay. I love this hand, actually.
It has lands, right? Which is better than we had game one.
It has lands and it has Fable of the Maniki Biki. What else would you like, you know?
Oh,
Oh
and
my
now it
god,
has a blood tide harvester.
that is. So the question is, do you Bank Buster first or do you Harvester first? The answer is you Harvester first.
I think you always harvester face first because of this reason. If Sky plays Talia, then you are able to deal with the Talia and be able to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah.
But we have
And
a go for throat
oh, sorry.
here.
Yeah, and since Sky played to go for the throat, that's not a 2-drop that's being played right now, which is equally as important.
Yeah, so I like this play here, and I like the Flame Bolt sideboard choice.
Winning announcement, fairly basic. So discards 2 cards, discards the lounge. Not fantastic draws, but Bank Buster being in play does matter, and the extra treasure token will matter as well.
For sure, the extra treasure token is really important, especially early on. Um,
Yeah, especially to cast all those Invoke Despairs that Aspi is playing in her deck. That is also a joke because they're in case of viewers confused.
yeah, this is
Um,
an invokeless deck.
yeah, and it makes sense because look at the mana base right now. There are 2 lands tap for black, and then there's the treasure. The land in hand does not tap for black. If this was an Invoke Despair deck, that would be rough, to say the least.
Yeah, and definitely here, sometimes Grixis is being punished on the mana base with those invoke despairs. And here Aspi just like, I don't need it. I have other things. Oh, but this was a great destroy evil being able to deal with that fable.
Nightclubber is relevant. Nightclubber is relevant. It enters, kills the things. Denik becomes a 2/3 with 1 damage, and then Flameblast Bolt can kill it. Is that what's going to happen right now? Please tell me.
Maybe you can
Please.
even attack first.
I don't think you need to because you don't want Denik
Yeah,
to block.
true. Oh
But
ho.
or oh well, I guess Denik may be blocking. Oh, because -1, -1.
2 damage here.
That
And
was
exiling
amazing.
it. Whoa, that hurted me. Here, Aspi taking some revenge on Sky.
That was so good.
Aspi's like, I have lens now. I can do stuff.
Oh, that was the most amazing. I've never seen Nightclubber be cast in standard and actually matter. Like that was the first time. That was great. Oh my god. This is like eating candy. It's just so
And
oh
that make disappear just being able to get rid of that Raffine.
has to use the treasures, but it doesn't really matter because yeah.
It doesn't. And there's a corpse
Nothing to
appraiser as
do.
well.
That land is pretty good too, because it means that Edict and Appraiser can be cast in the same turn.
And here
Yeah,
Aspi
that
taking a look.
Raffine is going away. You do not want that to be returned with Takenuma.
No, for sure. Oh, and we have a Shieldred. Because it's no longer a
This game.
Shieldred plus deck. And
This
actually,
game is going in direction. My goodness. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was like, actually, you can cast the shieldred, but you would have to lose your 2/2 in the process, so not worth it. And this way, you keep a shieldred's edict, and also you have the bank buster that you can activate in the end of the turn. And that means that Sky cannot attack because that Talia can just go into the bank buster. Oh, that cut down though. Being able to get rid of Talia is really important.
So the second wedding announcement is actually pretty relevant here because if those tokens become 3/3s, that goblin token can't really get in, and that's important. So maybe Aspi's gonna be thinking, let's try to push in before they're bigger.
Yeah, here attacking
Okay.
with 2/2 because we do need a second black source to be able to cast this shieldred. Now being able to cast a shieldred.
Yes, and it's the beautiful Phyrexian text shielded too. Oh man.
Another
Hmm.
Talia.
In this stage of the game, the Thalia is not particularly useful,
Not
unfortunately.
at all. Especially when Aspi's not
Wow.
playing these pairs.
And just drawing
Ha!
removal.
Another corpse appraiser. I love it.
So edict non-token, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. Make it so that the go for the throat isn't taxed, and just swing with both. If Sky decides to try to double block the corpse appraiser, obviously you can kill one of the tokens, and that's basically game. Because Sky is not playing board wipes.
Oh yeah, and here Sky going to 6 life.
Yeah.
Not looking too good for Sky here. Aspi just being able to dominate all game, and we've seen like with land consistency, these Grixis decks can be amazing. Although I have to say, things would have played out completely differently if Sky was on the play this game, because the Talia would have entered
Yeah.
earlier. We wouldn't have all these pressure from Aspi.
Yeah, it's true. I'm trying to think if that what announcement was flipping at that time because if that nightclubber was down when Thalia was out, oh, oh my god, that was such an interesting use. I just can't believe nightclubber was relevant because that's such a cool card to play with.
Yeah, I loved
Um,
playing it in draft,
yeah,
but I
I
think
guess
that's
the
the
real
only format that I ever played in before Aspi decided to
yeah.
bring it here for standard, and it's doing well.
I mean, a single pestilence activation is usually regarded as very good in most
Yeah.
constructed formats. But in this one, apparently, it's really mattering, and I really like that because it really tells you about the depth of the game.
So I have to say that the name of the deck, if you see here, it's the aggro beater, and I can see why.
I love that.
Yeah,
That makes sense. That makes
I
sense.
think Aspi was playing against playing with this Grixie against aggro and just losing, and at some point she was like, "Nope, I'm going to make this deck beat aggro. I don't care. I'll take all my invoke despairs. I take my Shieldress, and I will just put a bunch of removal, and it works."
Story of my life. So this hand is really interesting. There's a Flame Buzz Bolt, but this cannot kill Thalia. Denick comes down. It can't kill Denick either. That's triple Corpse Appraiser. Did somebody say magical Christmas land?
Yeah, because
Oh my.
look at this now. Not only Aspi is able to deal with Danik, is also able to then corpse appraise it so it doesn't come back from the grave. But here, taking a look first on what taking the 2 damage, just like, okay, let's see if there's not another creature that I would rather kill. And I think we're going to see a corpse appraiser exiling that Danik for some value. Looking at the top 3 cards, and oof,
Hmm.
you
I would
don't
be
have
tempted.
a fourth land, right? So
No, yeah. After that first game, I would be tempted to just take the land just in case. Just in case. But cut down, I think, is also a good pick here.
yeah.
I do like the land pick for obvious reasons. I think the cut down was also fine for the same reason that if you don't draw a land, you're not completely out of the running. Oh, this Transmogrant is such a good target for Flameless Bolt. Oh
So
my gosh.
y- the thing is that you cannot you yeah, it is, but it's also if you add the cut down, you wouldn't have a land. So that was nice here.
Yeah, I
And,
agree.
and now the man is kind of awkward because you cannot corpse appraise and then use the bolt because you only have access to one red. So here, just passing the
Yeah.
turn, probably using that bolt on the transmog transmogrant. How do you say this card
Trans
name?
I say it Transmogrant, but that's because I'm a filthy American and I say things weird.
Transmogrant.
Yeah. That is exiled forever now. It will never come back. Never, never, never.
Hey, just a side note, if it matters to anybody, I don't know how to say it either. I just call it that thing that looks weird.
I will now call it Ashnod's thing that looks weird.
The thing is that I a lot of times excuse myself that I'm not a native English speaker for magic cards. I'm like, oh, I'm not a native English speaker. That's why I cannot pronounce cards. And then somebody on the comments says, well, this card actually comes from the Latin word ta 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 ta, and it's actually a like just disproving that I'm just like it's just me.
Yeah, there you go. So this Dark Six Shores is not red mana.
Yeah,
That's kind of a problem.
but
I
at the
would be
same
tempted to.
time,
Okay.
you can use the Bank Buster, right? And then Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
You can. It's a risk, but I would be tempted to try to draw the red source. There's a good number of red sources in this deck um, that I would be tempted to do so because then next turn you could start casting 3 or 2 things. Fable also works because attacking with the Goblin token, uh, or the Geeky Tiki, as I like to call it, can create a Tiki Tokiki,
And
right?
Corpse Appraiser not that great when there's no creatures in the graveyard, right?
No, absolutely not. And that Denic, when it died, Sky immediately get that back on the field,
Oh, there
not
is the
risking
red
the
source.
that is very, very, very good. I would be tempted to discard a creature so that the other corpse appraiser could have a target.
Great point. Yeah, that Blood Harvester, it's
What? I was not expecting that land to get discarded. Full disclosure.
yeah. I was expecting Harvester to be discarded, but I guess it is tempting to have Harvester when your I don't know how you say it, Kiki Jiki Phoebe Jiki thing flips. I just call it reflection of Kiki Jiki.
It's funny. Yeah, that is the flip side. I like to call it the fable of the Maniki Biki.
Yeah, that's one of the few cards that I can pronounce, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, so I will not attempt to say Fable of the Mikiki.
That edict is so good right now, though,
Yeah,
because
and you
it
have
kills damage.
mana because you have a treasure token.
And the Plaza of Heroes cannot be used to protect the Denic either. That's very important. Um, Takenuma. This is a blind Takenuma. Cannot be countered. I saw that attempt to make disappear, and I was like, that's probably not how that's going to work. Here's a Shieldred's Edict. I don't think there were any negates in Sky's sideboard, so. But what? Yeah, what? Takenuma announced it land. Oh, that's rough.
Draw here for Sky. And what does Sky needs to come back from this?
Jeez. Another wedding announcement. A Raffine, maybe. A
Yeah, but
Shieldred and
none of those.
an Adeline would be extremely good, I think.
Oh
Being
yeah.
a 3/5 right now, that when you attack with the token, you get a free token. So there has to be at least one thing about using the harvester immediately
And now
instead
Corpse
of waiting.
Appraiser is online because you sacrificed your Harvester, so now it's on the grave. You can exile it with Appraiser.
Yeah, and there's no creatures in the yard on the opponent's side, so it's like what? Nothing. Yeah.
I love the fact that we're kind of debating some of Aspi's choice last turn, but now it kind of all makes sense where
Absolutely.
the thought process were.
I think it was definitely an interesting choice to discard the red land, but I think ultimately it definitely didn't hurt because Aspi was not planning to cast Corpse Appraiser after Corpse Appraiser on the same turn. Aspi was thinking, I just need to get one Corpse Appraiser down. As long as I'm matching Sky's energy, I'm matching Sky's onslaught, I don't really need to focus on anything extra. Oh, that's why, because Sky had nothing but removal. Yeah.
And now these make disappear can be casted with the casualty,
Yeah, this is
and
the most expensive redirect I've ever seen.
but if this reflection of Hikijiki survives with Corpse Appraiser on the battlefield, things will get wild.
Where's the draw? Ooh,
Talia is not it.
no, unfortunately not. That Positive Heroes is very nice. And Thalia is a 3/2, so that blocks very nicely too. But
Yeah, but now you can try to find an answer, and Edict takes care of Talia, for example, because it's a sacrifice. Oh, and that as well.
the best card in this matchup, it's Nightclubber. It's happening. We're here. I mean, Thalia is a 3/2, so it actually doesn't really do very much. But it's here. Just you wait. Just you wait. When Aspi draws the second Nightclubber.
Yeah, that's it. That's the goal. Giving -2,
Yes.
-2. If you have two of those, -1 plus -1 will take care of that Talia.
If Aspi draws the second Nightclubber right now, I will go ballistic. Okay, that would be really
You know what
funny if it
Aspi needs? Aspi needs an harvester, right? Because
Oh,
then,
because Fable can copy it.
yeah. Oh, I didn't think about it.
I am too busy fangirling over the fact that Nightclubber is being relevant. I am so happy. This is so interesting.
And
I love
Aspi is
this.
seeing right through the line. Aspi has tested, and we can see it here.
Oh,
And suddenly, Sky, no cards in hand, down to 10 life. This top deck needs to be good because there's another Corpse Appraiser entering the battlefield, exiling the Talia,
yeah.
looking at the top 3 cards of the battlefield, and choosing one of them into end.
There's another go for the throw. I mean, the only draw I could ever see in this entire format that could help the situation is Farewell. And I don't think Sky has any.
Yeah.
Yeah. A second Shieldred is something that could have been useful maybe 5 turns
Upkeep
ago.
go for throat is like, nope, this game is mine, 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 mine. And
Well, I will append that there is in fact a Plaza of Heroes that could potentially be activated. So the go for the throw does not actually kill Shieldred, but it doesn't matter because
oh, and
this is a
here
bait.
just playing super conservative. Plaza Virus getting activated. Go for the throat in response. And now
There you go.
Sky is left with nothing but dreams and
Dang.
hopes.
Who needs Invoke Despair to make sure you have a handful of cards, right?
No one.
And an extra cut down in case you didn't have enough removal spells.
And a good game here from Sky as she draw another land. And this is game. Good games from Aspi. Things were not looking so
Wow.
great that game one with only 2 lands. But then once Aspi was able to get the lands, the games were easy peasy. What did you think of this deck here that Aspi decided to bring?
Oh my gosh, that was a really interesting use of Grixis, and that's probably a really good example of how to sort of play your outs, right? Like really playing Fable to the limit, really playing your mana to the limit, and knowing exactly what to discard and when to discard it, right? Because we were saying like maybe discarding this land attacks for red is a bad idea, but it turned out just perfectly fine because the plan didn't require that. And I think that really shows you exactly how that works. The Esper deck on game one really popped off I think the game 3 going first for the Esper was really pertinent as well. Um, yeah, that was definitely rough though.
We are still
That was
recouping from this match, but as we are halfway here in the day, as we had two matches already, two more to go, we would like to thank
yes.
our sponsors, Wizard of the Coast and Good Luck i5. Thanks for sponsoring the VML. This wouldn't be possible without you. And next up, I think we are going to have some more magic and some more interesting decks. So actually, this is my division. May is 5-0.
Ooh.
So right now I'm 5-1 because I already played my match this week. And guess who the only person that defeated me on this division was? That's right, May, as she is killing it and decided to bring Selesnya Toxic. She says here that she forgot to change her list last week, but she thinks the deck is still crazy busted. Let me say this. I do this a lot. I often forget to renew my deck list, mostly because of time zones. I get confused and then I just don't do it. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. May, a big fan of Skrelv. Skrelv is my son and I love him. I'm quoting. And let's see if she's able to toxic the opponent out. So against May, who do we have here playing? Pure Art Idols. So Pure Art Idols decided to bring Grixis Midrange. This one does have Invoke Despairs, so more of our traditional list. What do you think of this version of the Grixis Midrange?
I mean, certainly a lot less counter magic than the last match that we saw. I'm interested to see how it's going to address the toxic shenanigans.
Yeah, I'm also very interested to see here, especially because it's my division. So I'm really interested to see how this plays out. And Pure Art Idols at 3-2, which means that if she's able to win now against May and then win next week, actually she's not that bad into making the playoffs because she will defeat the player that has the most wins, which is May, and then that will give an advantage on the head-to-head. Um, so very nice to see here. And what is the most important card in this matchup? So here she says Rod Priest for them, Brotherhood End for me. Oh yeah, that's true. Brotherhood's End. There's how many? I think one in the main, but we have access maybe to two more inside world. So let's see the
Hmm.
games and let's see who wins this one.
Here we go.
So we are
Woohoo!
seeing things on May's side. Oh, here a change of the graphics.
Yes, this is peak peak magic here. I love that. That was good. Oh, this is a pretty fantastic hand. Very standard, of course. You always want to have a one drop on turn one for obvious. I mean, well, maybe the reason isn't obvious, but I mean, you're aggro. You're trying to be as aggressive as possible, as consistently as possible. And there's a reason why the green white toxic deck plays 12 1 mana spells.
And here, Pure Idols going for a mole. We do have to say though that May has two Myrex in hand, which means that the land situation, although there's three lands, it's right now she cannot play cards like Singer, which are key cards in this deck, as we know, and not being able to, for example, turn to play two one drops unless, of course, she draws.
Well,
Unless
don't forget
I'm.
that Mirix taps for any color the turn it enters play, right? So the turn one
Ah,
play is
it
you play
does.
you play Thicket first because it always taps for colored mana, and then in turn two you can play the Singer. Turn three you can only play two one drops, but there are only two one drops after the first one in the hand, so it's not actually that big of an issue.
Yeah, you're
Mirror,
right. I completely forgot that ability.
yeah, Skrelv of course because Skrelv is my son
But I
and dies
think
to cut
cut
down.
down.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. But here now, Pure Art Idols only access to two mana, not blue yet. And that Rod Priest is going to be a key card. So does Pure Art Idols as bl-
Oh.
Brotherhood's End? That's the question.
No, but I don't know. But Pure Idol certainly has Shieldred's Edict, which is very
Oh, and
interesting.
no third land here for
Mm.
Pure Art Idols. Although I I'm assuming something like go for throat might be online, or maybe not, as she allows the attack here. Um,
Yep, there's the Shieldred's Edict, which is so horrible against Crawling Chorus. I
yeah,
would not be surprised to see it be sided out against this matchup for that exact reason.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. And Bankbuster is not it. We need a way. Oh, things are getting spicy because now
yeah,
even Brotherhood's End is not enough as it doesn't deal with the contaminator.
there's a third land. Is there Bloodhood's End? So
There it
there
is.
it is. Yes.
That's
So I have a
that's
feeling.
that's a start.
So my theory is that Pure Idols specifically mulliganed until she got the Brotherhood's End because the game one is so rough. Because game two, game three, you can side in the other two, and all the rest of your removal spells side out your counter magic. You don't care about counter magic in this matchup. But that first game, though, it's really hard to win. Now that Shieldred's Edict sound looks a lot nicer. Fable of the Maniki Biki.
Maniki Biki.
Maniki Biki.
I love how you say it. But
Thank you.
that annex being able to exile it, and this is going to be 9 toxic because of the proliferate. So one more.
You want to? I mean, one Pure Idol, PHI is at one life.
Oh yeah,
Is
that's
that
I didn't even see that one, so I was so focused on the toxics.
because the Slaughter Singer was pumping everything, all the one ones into two twos. So it's like, so here's an interesting play that May didn't do, but that could have done is purposefully put a counter on the Fable to make it so PHI could only discard the one card that was in her hand at the
Oh, that's
time,
smart.
and then turn it into a creature. And then it's like, well, if I draw dead, that sucks. Well, that was a very fast game.
I wish when somebody asked me how is your day going, sometimes I could just screenshot this board state and me at like 1 life, 9 toxic. And what do you think it's going to be here, the sideboard on both sides? We are seeing May's side, obviously, so maybe taking a look first at May's side.
I mean, obviously, Destroy Evil is very nice. It kills Bankbuster if they ever try to block with it. It kills Fable because Fable's going to try to get PHI to draw into the Brotherhood's End, which are the best card in this matchup. Other than that, I didn't really see much in the sideboard because a lot of it looked like it was more like anti-aggro stuff, um, just things to address answers, right? So I have a feeling that Pure Heart Idols is going to be siding out all of the counter magic, if not most, and siding in the Brotherhood's ends, siding in the cut downs. Any blockers that are possible would also be sided in. I expect to see a lot of this game. There's a mulligan.
And I think Pure Art does need to mulligan pretty aggressively against this deck. It's not really a
Mm-hmm.
choice. If you don't have interaction, the deck will just eat you alive.
Absolutely. When I play against this deck, and similarly to Brotherhood's End, temporary lockdown is an extremely necessary piece. And if you don't have that down at a certain time to exile everything, you're dead in the water. You can't do very much. Now this Slaughter Sing is coming down, of course, which is very, very good for
And
May.
here May is like, okay, maybe a cut down is, but no
No
cut
cut
down.
downs.
But maybe a Brotherhood's End, but it's awkward because of that crawling. So if there's a Brotherhood's End, probably saving it for later in the game. Oh, that Corpse Appraiser though, just a 3/3, not having any creature. Just. Oh, but now we have the Tyrants on a double strike creature, which is just amazing.
Tivar Stand I don't think is necessary yet.
Yeah,
But the singer plus crawling chorus I think is the gonna be the play probably
yeah.
if May decides what to
Yeah,
do.
because then even if there's Brotherhood's
There's
End, you
that.
still keep. Oh, and here attacking with both. That's smart because definitely
Yeah.
pure art idols doesn't want that. And here is just so good for May.
I was pure heart Ails in this situation. I think blocking knowing that there's 4 Tivar stands in the deck, I would be very hesitant to block this duelist. Because stand can't pump anything. But if I forced May to use it to save a crawling chorus, that could matter. But now the board state's done. And unless Pure Heart Idols has a Brotherhood's End,
Oh, but
Shielded would
there's a
be
destroy
fine.
evil. Oh no. I was
Hmm?
suddenly excited for pure art idols like that's good, but nope. And here look at
No.
the amount of damage that May is going to be able to get.
Yeah.
Just
And there's really oh, okay, the chorus comes down anyway.
yeah, because even if you have a Brotherhood's End, then you have 2/1s that survive that are going to be able to attack.
Oh, that's game.
Yeah, that is going to be game. That was a fast one. And
May has
here
to simply May has to do the really esoteric strategy of turning her creatures sideways.
and that
um,
was fast. And May at
wow.
6-0 right now in the VML. So
Oh my
definitely
gosh.
a player to watch. And what a game.
Yeah, that was rough. That is the reason why I have to now pack so many temporary. Like a card that I might start seeing people play more if this becomes more prominent is something like Malicious Malfunction, because that kills all the toxic creatures, but it also exiles them. So you can't protect the Skrelv. You can't get a token with a calling chorus. It gets around all of that. It doesn't kill the Annex Sentry or the Contaminator, but it doesn't almost doesn't matter because
It
you can
feels
just
like Brotherhood's End is not enough. So I have
yeah.
to say that Aspi was so smart last the other match that we had, tuning this Grixis deck into taking off the Invoke Despairs, because we saw Pure Art Idols was not ever able to cast anything like Invoke Despair, or was it good against this green white toxic? So this new Grixis aggro beater deck, as Aspi calls it, might be the way to go in the future.
I grew a beating deck. I love that.
And we
Just
have
beats
one
aggro.
more match. We are going to go to our last match of the week. And who do we have here? Let's get our player side. Olivia, 4-1 in her division, pretty well, playing mono white mid range. Um, this version pretty similar to the one we saw before, right? Or anything that stands out to you?
It looks pretty similar. I see White Sun's Twilight, which is very interesting. I see Anointed Peacekeeper, which I don't think we saw in the last one. There is that a Seraph? Maybe, or maybe I'm just mis looking at that. Um, it does look fairly standard though. I'm not seeing any super made. Oh wait, hold on. A complete lack of Field of Ruins.
Oh, that's true. No stone rains in this deck.
No, we're not going to see that land destruction, land denial in this matchup. So that's okay
And
though.
and let's see what the opponent is going to be playing. Mono blue. So very nice to see here the battle between mono white and mono blue. These monocolored decks is something that is been kind of missing with all these Grixis as per legend fest that we have been having. But um, here I like Wub answer. I just had a good feeling that I should pick the blue deck back up. So let's see if it works out. What do you feel of this particular matchup between mono blue and mono white?
It's very interesting because Mono Blue tries to play reactively for a few turns and then says, actually, no, I'm going to just kill you in 3 turns with Haughty Jin. And I've talked about this before, but Haughty Jin's critical values are 4 because it kills in 5 turns, 5 to kill in 4 turns, 7 to kill in 3 turns, and of course 10 to kill in 2 turns. Usually, when you're playing a Haughty Jin, you want it between that 5 to 7 range. If it's at 10, you've basically won the game. And if it's below 5, then it's like it's a 4/4. It's probably okay. Um, so getting that down is super, super interesting. This counter suite is very interesting, and I absolutely love the use of witness protection in the sideboard, although I don't expect we'll see a lot of it because it's not a green-white toxic matchup. And all the Tellurian Terrors in the sideboard too. Wow. This is ambitious. I'm really curious to see how this goes. Also, I've heard through the grapevine that this is a really good game, so I'm really interested to see how this goes.
Oh, okay. So you have some inside information that we don't. Let's get into the match and
I
see
don't
what's
really.
going to happen.
I've just heard that it's good. That's all I got.
But again, we have one
Yeah.
of these matchups that one of the players is 4-1, Olivia, and
Ooh.
Wub is 3-2. So a very decisive match here this week.
Oh, no landers. Oh, that's painful.
Yeah. Oh well.
Yeah. I mean, you have to mulligan this, right? Obviously.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, that's what that was. Sorry. I saw the spell dancers and I got excited.
there's two of them, so you get double excited now.
What an interesting card. I don't think you'll see a lot of use here, unfortunately, because there's double laid on arms in Olivia's hand. Of course, at this point, Wub doesn't necessarily know this.
Yeah, but here, Olivia doesn't get access to the third land, which is actually crucial.
Yeah, that's true.
But okay, neither does Wub, so
Is this what they were talking about? This
but
is just,
impulse does help, so you know.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
hard to know.
god,
Oof.
that's
But the thing is,
rough.
because of the way that mono blue plays, not having that third land is not always the worst. If this was against an infect deck, not having that third land for Olivia would be crucial and might result in a loss. But because Wub is just playing 2 and 3 drops, you can save the planes. You can say like, I'll just lay down arms later. I don't need to lay down arms right now. And there's a high Jin.
And the restoration of Eganjo really helps out here, making sure that Olivia is that fourth land. And not only that, I love that Anoint Peacekeeper.
I
It
do
works
too.
so well against Mono Blue because one of the good things about Mono Blue is that your opponent doesn't know what kind of tricks you have, but if you have something like Anointed Peacekeeper, more than the tax, it gives you a look on what your opponent has. But here it looks like Olivia tried to go for wedding announcement, didn't resolve. Now we have laid down the arms, but that also doesn't resolve because we have an answer and 3 damage. And that mercurial spell dancer is going to activate. What does this mercurial spell dancer does?
What does it do? It is a very interesting card in this type of deck because what it does is it says if you cast a non-creature spell, you put a counter, an oil counter on it. When it can't be blocked, so there's that. When it hits a player in combat damage, you can remove 2 counters on it, and you can copy the next instant or sorcery you use to cast. The reason why this can be awkward for mono blue is because a lot of your spells are reactive spells, so you don't want to copy them. But if you can copy an impulse or consider, that's extremely valuable for obvious reasons. You're getting a lot of value. You're getting to do the things you need to do. Wub not having that fading hope, though, that's rough
Yeah,
for
while you
sure.
gave this amazing explanation, um, these
Yeah, those lay
laydown
down
harms
arms.
did some very good work, let me say, as
Yeah.
now Wub is left with nothing on the board.
That flow of knowledge is probably going to try to come out next turn. So I have a feeling a Peacekeeper will get a fading hope right now.
Yeah, definitely Wub will need to start using these fading opes to get rid of some things. Sarah
Yeah.
Pargon, maybe. But the thing is that you don't really wanna get the Peacekeeper back to the end to then be replayed. But what else can you do, right?
Yeah.
And
They'll
another
put that on the
fading
bottom.
ope, leaving Olivia only with a 1/1 and being able to scry. Oh, Jean. But there's lay on the arm, so you know.
Is that 4 laydown arms then that has been played right now?
Yeah, I think this is the fourth one.
Because one got hit by the phasing, and then there was 2 and 3. Oh, wow, all 4 laydown arms in the top. That's really good for Olivia. It's huge.
Yep, that's a
At
great
this,
card.
I would be extremely tempted to. Oh, Blue Sun's Twilight.
Oh my god. I get now where you were saying that this game is amazing.
I maybe it's gonna be played, but not having that 5th land is really, really rough. We'll have to see how this goes. And then if whenever, well, wait, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Olivia does have 6 lands. but may just be playing around the make disappear. I would be tempted to do so, certainly.
And there it is.
Uh,
Anointed Peacekeeper being able to take a look and get some tax on one of these cards. Going for the blue sense Twilight.
oh,
Almost getting at the other blue sense there, but good
oh my
catch.
gosh. That was,
And
yeah.
now she knows the coast is clear to play Wedding Announcement.
The classic Borborygmos mistake.
So what considers here, they get a land, but that
Fine.
tax on the Twilight is just so punishing.
Yeah, and just this is sort of one of the biggest weaknesses of mono blue is when the opponent goes wide. Because mono blue does not have a good board wipe. It has the crashing wave thing that bounces everything except for one, which is fine, but not worth playing in a deck like this.
And can we just take a moment to see how Sarah Paragon gets you have that Wedding Announcement back, which is just so great?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Like,
just drawing
like
cards from Wedding Announcements.
there it is. And that Twilight costs 2 more, so you can't steal that Paragon and try to recast. Well, no, nothing can get recast because they were all exiled by late arms. They're all on a farm somewhere, just
One
chilling.
thing one thing that Magic players cannot complain in 2023 is lack of draw spells in white, which was a problem in the past, but not anymore.
Absolutely, I think, and the fact that you have late arms, which is an extremely fantastic removal spell, that just hammers it home.
And here we have exactly what you said, because there's no board wipe on blue, and we know that, so there's no punishment in going white.
Right.
Mono white taking the first game there. What do you think is going to change post sideboard?
I think, well, cutting down expensive cards is usually a good play because you don't ever want to be, if you're on the back foot and you want to try to cast something, it's better to be able to cast stuff. Depopulate is extremely good because it's mono blue, so they're not drawing extra cards from the creature's colors, and you don't have to worry about playing around that. And it's better than Farewell because, first of all, they're not getting the creatures back unless they steal a Sarah Paragon, I guess. And then also, you get to have that extra 2 mana in case they try to make disappear. Because those make disappears are very, very threatening. They can get you when you're least expecting it.
For sure, and we see here Olivia taking some time uh, for the decision. And I like how the deck name is VML Week 6. I do the same. I'm always afraid I confuse because I always play the same deck, so I just try to tweak it a bit.
So there goes the spell pierces, of course, because you have to. So what's the question? The question is, what do you cite in here? Um, if I were Web at this point, I would cite in Spell Pierce because it's basically guaranteed to either hit a Planeswalker or an enchantment or artifact. I would want to cite in Essence Scatter because those Peacekeepers are so threatening. And I'd probably cite in Tolarian Terror because it is just so good against lay down arms. Because if you play it on turn 4, they're not going to have 7 planes until like turn whatever, turn 8, turn 9. Wow. Citing in those. That's interesting. I love that. More Blue Suns, Twilight. There goes Delver. Yep. It's totally bad against Slay Down Arms. Terror comes in. I would side out Spell Dancers personally. They don't scale, like in terms of power. And that can be problematic. Oh, well, here we go. Interesting hand for both players. Huh. Is that third land? It is. So Wub can just kind of sit tight for a bit and pop off that thirst for discovery. Olivia does not have a Reckoner Bankbuster or a Wedding Announcement, so she's thinking, if Wub plays a Spell Dancer or Delver Secrets, I have perfect removal for it. But the thing is that Wub doesn't actually have any threats right now.
Yeah, and
So
those
that
lay down arms in end.
so as long as Wub doesn't play a creature, Olivia has essentially a 3-card hand against Wub, who has 6 cards. And that's very scary. Draws
Oh, and
land,
that it
land.
is one of the terrors.
That T-Terror, it's coming down at some point. We'll see. And there's an extra island too. So as long as Wub can hit a land drop every single turn, it's going to be just fine. Oh, is Wonder coming down? It is.
And here,
What a
Olivia was fast. Olivia was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take the chance while you're tapped out and cannot play something like make disappear. And that was really smart
yeah.
there.
I would have been tempted to play Impulse there and leave up 2 mana for Make Disappear just uh to dissuade my opponent from doing something like that. That was a really bold move. But here's the power of T-Terror. Ward 2. What does Olivia do here?
So we can start with destroy evil. But the thing is the word, you know?
Mm-hmm. You know that it's not going to get laid on arms, or LDA'd, as I like to call it. And any counterspell automatically counters this, even Spell Pierce. And now this terror is online. What a scary, scary thing.
Oh, and that's actually great for Wub because we know that they have this Blue Sun Twilight that can steal that token almost for free. Get rid of that Wandering Emperor with the Terror.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good
And
if you ask me. Still keep mana for Jean and Negate, by the way.
mm-hmm.
Because if you
The
play
best,
Jean, then Negate as a discount.
yeah. I want to mention very quickly, ossification is much better against the terror because if you counter ossification with Make Disappear, well, then you didn't have to pay 4 mana for the ward, right? But if it
Yeah.
enters the battlefield, then you pay for the ward. They have to have a phase out or something. So now that it's on the field, now Olivia can pay for the ward. It will not get negated, which is exactly what she wants to happen.
Yeah.
Love may decide to consider Impulse to try to find a phase out, but now negates off the table.
And didn't find one.
Flow of knowledge, though. Oh my god.
Flow of Knowledge. What a card there.
Do you remember? Did you play during Amonkhet? Because there's
Oh,
that
no,
card,
only draft, to be honest.
the Peer Through Tomorrow, where it's draw X cards and then discard a card, right?
That Jean
Anybody?
for 8 damage, like casually, you know? So we have
Oof, yeah.
lay down harms. We know that's going to definitely get a negate, but then we can always Fateful Absence.
Yeah, but every turn Olivia plays removal is one turn that she's not playing a threat, and she
Oh,
has to
yeah.
be really careful about this.
Especially when you're giving your opponents ways to draw more cards with a clue.
Mm-hmm. That Flow of Knowledge is about to be a draw 7 cards, discard 2 cards. That's so insanely good. Another advantage that Wub has here is that any counterspell that Wub plays, they know that it's not going to get countered by something else, which is vital in a matchup like this. When you're playing against mono white and they're trying to get value, if you have a handful of counterspells, you're like, well, I'll just wait for you to play stuff, and I don't have to worry about it. And draws 8. Okay, cool.
And here, poor Olivia just getting answers, but no really ways to pressure the opponent.
Yeah. And now that Web has a full hand, this is going to get counterspelled.
Yeah, and the gate can just take care of this,
Mm-hmm.
and there still make disappear among other things.
Yep. And a thirst for knowledge too. So if in case you thought that this wasn't enough cards, well,
Another land.
see, mono white does want lands too. This isn't actually a horrible draw, but the fact that Olivia doesn't have Bankbusters, Wandering Emperor,
Yeah,
or Eternal Emperor, or even a copy of Wedding Announcement, it's just this land is just not as helpful. And the Roadside Reliquary can't draw 2 cards either. Oh, wow.
And here Olivia pulls the trigger on that fateful absence, just wanting to win this war at this point. But we know that WUB has so many answers on their hand.
I want to see this spell dancer copy a thirst for discovery. That's on, that's on my bucket list now. I want to know if Wub's gonna.
That dog attacking just for the flavor.
Bork bork. There's another slip out the back. In case you thought that Wub did not have enough anti-removal spells. All right, is it
They keep
happening?
coming.
It is. Yes. Okay.
Oh my god, what a game! And here WUB just doing whatever they want to do.
Not even playing Haughty Jin, playing around board wipes. That is. And
At
there's a
least your
Reckoner.
lands now draw you 2 cards, right? Because you have an artifact or an enchantment, but will that resolve? That's the question.
Oh, I would be tempted to counter it just because it
Yeah,
does so much for Olivia.
true.
It activates the reliquaries, it taps for draw. Yeah.
So here Olivia has to pay 4, but then we know there's make disappear.
Yeah. There it is. 5 counters
That,
on that spell dancer.
oh yeah. And that Jin,
So
I bet he's a big creature right now
yeah,
with
I
so
wonder how
many
much power
spells
it
being
is.
cast so far. Yep, that's an
Oh,
18. 18 4
remember when I was
casually, you know?
remember when I was talking earlier about critical values, about how like when it's at 10, if your opponent's at 20 life, the difference between 10 and 19 is negligible. But if your opponent's at 14 life, then funnily enough, 18 power is enough to kill you.
Yep, so
So there's
here
that.
Olivia needs an answer. And I don't think there's lay down arms, but then we know that Wub has access to sleep out the back, so that's not enough.
Oh,
And that's going to be game because that Jin is just attacking for 18 casually.
uh, 21, including the spell dancer, which is
Oh yeah,
unblockable.
that's more than enough
Negative.
for a game number 3.
Wow. So this is definitely the type of game where you need to sign an unlicensed first.
Oh yeah,
If you get hurt, yeah, it's almost like they heard me. Just immediately,
yeah,
right as
because
I said that. Yeah. Sorry.
when you think about it, like you don't think Earth against Mono Blue at first, but then you understand that it will lock a lot that gene. Um, and yeah, like this game was just so amazing. Mono Blue being able to do what Mono Blue does the best, and after that, Mono White game one just dominating all the game. It's interesting to see how both of these games can showcase the different strengths of each deck.
Absolutely. I've seen mono blue decks mill out because of flow of knowledge.
Is that something we're going to see today?
No, probably not, because I'm pretty sure Web will not do that on purpose at the very least. And it also mostly happens because I'm so good. I'm generally pretty okay destroying their threats. But the thing is like I said earlier, Olivia just doesn't have the counter magic to deal with those counter spells. So Wub is playing a very one-sided counter magic-y strategy. Um, this is a great hand for Wub, but also a very great hand for Olivia. This spell pierce, depending on what it counters, shapes the game.
It might be right now.
There it is. Because there's a
That
scatter ray.
Bankbuster is scary.
You have to counter it. So the question is, Olivia, a Ganjo comes down. Can't get
So
countered by scatter ray. Sorry.
here we have to have an impulse because I think Wub really needs that third land.
Yeah,
There it
there it
is.
is.
And there's a Jin, but we know that there's lay down arms, but there's not 3 planes on the battlefield.
And that Iganjo is looking awkward. Oh, Olivia just getting back Bankbuster, but
That's
did
pretty good.
not use it. Well, here's the thing: did not use the ability to get the hearse down for free. Now it gets countered,
Oh yeah. And
and
that's such
this
a
is what I
key
was saying.
card, as we said.
That counter on that Bankbuster, making that the target for Iganjo, is going to shape this game.
Oh, but here it's kind
It's
of
gonna
awkward
happen.
because Wub needs that fourth land, so they will have to discard the Thirst for Discover, two non-creature spells with the non-land spells with the with that Thirst for Discovery, but that Terror for 1 mana, casually.
Yeah, 1 mana 5/5. It's completely balanced.
Yeah, and here we have to use Destroy Evil, but here Olivia
Oh,
decides not to go for it, and we know that Tolarian Tower has two wards, so not being able to deal with it right now, having to take 5 damage.
that decision not to cast Destroy Evil on the Terror, I think, is probably going to be pivotal for
Yeah,
how for even more pivotal than the spell pierce earlier. Because what happens now is that Wub is allowed to untap,
yeah.
and that is like a crime. Letting a
But
blue
if
player.
Olivia does have, okay, so this is not ideal, but you can attack with the 3/4 because that Jean is phased out,
Mhm.
and
So
I
it can make at
think
least.
here Olivia just deciding if she wants to draw with Bankbuster, probably looking for that extra land. Just going for another Bankbuster.
I would be tempted to hold up Wandering Emperor at this point, just to try to.
Oof,
Oh
not finding the
wow!
land though. So the thing is that yes, you are making blockers for the 5/5, but that genie is going to keep growing, and that's probably a turn to kill if you don't find an
Mhm.
answer. You need a third land to have layout arms, but we know that there's a sleep out the back in Wub's hands. So, oh, Flow of Knowledge, your favorite card.
Oh my God! 5 spells.
Yeah, and look how much discount that genie is providing. Everything is on
Wow.
sale on Blue Land.
That's where I want to live. I want all my spells to be cost 1 less, just naturally like that.
It's
Yep.
it's
Double
it's
negate. Oh my
Wub is playing Mono Blue, but it's like almost like it's a Black Friday.
God.
No, I will stop now with these terrible puns.
Oh
I
my
will
God! Another
apologize.
latest. You have to play the farmhand here.
Oh, you do?
There's no.
You need to play that lay down the arms, but
It's like Olivia can hear me.
yeah.
Oh no,
Here,
drawing a card.
okay, there's the land, but we know
Oh, but
about
it's
the
too
sleep
late.
out the back, and this is a sorcery, not an instant. If it was an instant, things would be very different, right? Because then you could
If there,
use the
yeah.
second lay down the arms, but
If it was an instant, it would be modern playable.
oh yeah.
Legacy playable almost actually. Well, maybe not. I don't know. That may be a bit of a stretch. But late on arms being sorcery matters so much. And I'm just gonna call back to that moment. Olivia not having that unlicensed hearse was the make or break of the game, I think. The fact that that was something that did not land, that just
Because you
wow.
you did then have access to a second bank buster. The issue is even not even having mana to be able to activate these bank busters every turn. But that
Yeah.
Earth would be definitely necessary to stop this gene, or at least slow
Mhm.
it down a bit.
And
Because
prevent the
that's
terror
that's
from
the way
coming
Mono Blue
early.
wins.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get a turn two, if you can resolve a turn two unlicensed hearse against mono blue and they don't have pithy needle for it, it's basically an automatic win unless they have like 2 delvers that have flipped or something. It's really hard for mono blue to get back once you exiled their entire graveyard because Jin can't attack in, and unless they have 7 or 6 islands, they're not playing a terror. It's just wow,
Great
wow, what a
plays
game.
here, great games by Olivia and Wub. Wub taking the win with Mono Blue, and what amazing matches we had here today. What did you think of the games today? Any highlight you wanna emphasize
Oh,
on today?
jeez. Um, the Eternal Wanderer blowing up the board at 8 poison counters, I think, was a highlight for me. Um, Flow of knowledge for like 8, highlight for me. Anytime Blue Suns, uh, not Zenith, but Blue Suns
Twilight.
was just, yeah, Twilight. Oh, that was a highlight. There were a lot of highlights tonight. Actually, every single match was extremely good and entertaining. Um, wow.
For me, for me,
Yeah.
the highlight was the Stone Rains.
Yes.
That was
That
so
was
cool. It's so mean, but we had some Ponza action, some land destruction. Lord Windgrace would be proud. And
absolutely.
before we finish the day, we have to obviously thank our amazing sponsors. This stream and the VML is sponsored by Good Luck i5 and Wizards of the Coast. If you are not following Good Luck i5 everywhere, like I listen to the podcast, is amazing. Maria and Megan are amazing humans, so you should go do that and follow them in every platform available. Like we have to understand this tournament is a great way to enter in the magic competitive field, and we it's so inexpensive compared to other tournaments and gives you so many amazing opportunities. So definitely thanks to our sponsor to making possible that these tournaments keep being affordable for everyone, and without them this wouldn't be possible. Also thank you to Kuro, our expert for the night, making this night more enjoyable and definitely giving great insights. And last but not least, to Phoebe. Phoebe is the voice in the background that makes that this is possible. And today we had some technical issues, but you were not able to tell because Phoebe fixed them all. So thank you so much. And I think
And
that's going to be
also,
a wrap.
they couldn't tell because I had the mic muted, so you guys couldn't hear me screaming constantly.
So Phoebe is on our here. I don't know if you're able to hear, but uh, definitely we're very lucky to have Phoebe in our lives. And I think that's going to be it for today, right?
Yeah.
It's a wrap,
Thanks so
everyone. And next week we will be here 6 p.m. Pacific time on Friday for the next week before playoffs. Things are going to get intense. So don't forget to hit the follow button if you are not followed yet. And see you next week.
much.